everyone, welcome back. Hope you're well. So in today's video, we're going to be talking through tips and tricks to survive a makeup no-buy or low-buy. So many of you have been in touch saying that you felt the same way that I did some time ago. You know, you've got this enormous makeup collection and know that you probably can't use it in your lifetime, but that you were still buying and really wanted to kind of break the habit and make a change. So just to help you, I thought I would kind of share the tips and tricks that got me through my year-long low-buy, and hopefully they'll help you too. So one of the first things I did when I started my no-buy was to take stock of everything I had. So I would get all of my eyeshadow palettes together in one place, all of my bronzers together in one place, all of my concealers together, and just kind of really work out exactly what I had in my collection. It's really easy to kind of forget everything that we've got. When I started out, I'd got over 30 eyeshadow palettes. Like, no one needs that amount of eyeshadow. It is crazy. I think I had about 12 different concealers, several different foundations. So just by doing that, when I was out and about and I was maybe tempted to buy something, in the back of your mind, you're saying to yourself, do you know what? I have, 10 bronzers. I do not need any more. And that really is so simple. You can do it today, but it really does help kind of slow your spending down. Leading really nicely on from that, one of the things I did was to calculate how much I'd already spent on makeup in kind of another almost shock tactic. So even when I think of just eyeshadow palettes, when you're totting up the value of 30 of them, and not all of them were drugstore, a lot of them were high end, that comes to an awful lot of money. And it kind of makes me cringe even now thinking about how much money I've spent, because for a lot of people, it would be a family holiday. It's just such a lot of money. And then what I found was when I was tempted to shop, I reminded myself of how much I'd already spent. And that a lot of the times just stopped me in my tracks, because I just thought, I am not spending a single penny more on makeup. So another thing I did as I embarked on my no-buy was to reorganize my entire collection. Now, I think when we're buying so much all the time, it can be really easy to forget about things that we bought a little while ago. They get pushed to the back of the drawer and don't get the kind of attention they probably deserve. So by reorganizing everything, working out what you've got, it kind of reminds you of things and reminds you that you've got a lot already, a lot of great stuff that you should probably be using. I also kind of cleaned up the drawers, cleaned up the front of the packaging of everything, made it look a little bit more attractive to me, because they kind of get gunked up when they're kind of thrown in drawers over a period of time. So just cleaning it all up makes you kind of feel almost like you've got new stuff, especially when you're kind of digging out things that you've not used for ages. It can almost feel like something new, and therefore leave you feeling like you don't need to buy anything else, because you've reminded yourself of all the great things that you already have. So one tip that was really helpful for me for keeping me on track throughout my no-buy and low-buy was to have a savings goal in mind. Now, what you're saving for actually doesn't matter, because it's going to be very personal to you. It might be that you're saving for a new car. It could be that you're saving for home improvements or maybe a family holiday. For me, I wanted to save towards a deposit for a house, and having that goal in mind makes it so much easier to walk away from spending on something, even if it's just, a small amount like £10, knowing that that £10 can't go towards something that is a really big goal for you just makes it so much easier, because you're kind of stealing from Peter to pay Paul. So for me, certainly knowing that that wasn't going to be able to go in the savings pot massively, massively helped me be able to just walk away from something. So another goal that really helped me stay on track, and also something that I am still working on to this day, is to clear the clutter. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating kind of giving away loads of your makeup collection, but if you have a goal of just working through what you already have in a bid to kind of get rid of those things that you perhaps don't love, and then reduce the overall size of your collection, knowing that you don't need another concealer because you have 4 in your cupboard that you kind of want to get through and use up, means again that it's so much easier to walk away from that product, because you've got loads you want to use up and you want to kind of free up a drawer to keep maybe something else in. So another thing you might find helpful is to have a non-makeup related goal in mind. Now, when we are shopping all the time, it takes up a lot of time, traveling to stores, looking in the stores, reading reviews, ordering things online, waiting in for said things to arrive, and so on and so on. It takes up a lot of time. Most of us lead really busy lives, but we often tell ourselves we don't have time to work on certain goals, but yet we find time to shop. So what I found was things like, being able to work out. I told myself that I was too busy to do that. I wanted to read more, something that I am doing now. And I always told myself that I just didn't have time to do it. Yet I would find time to sit on Beauty Bay and order loads of stuff. So having another goal that you can work on is really, really helpful. It also takes the attention away from shopping because you become focused on something else that is really important to you. Another tip I have is to find enjoyment in what you already have. If you've been shopping a lot, it's likely that you have several products that you maybe played with when you first got them, but you haven't touched in a really long time. I would encourage you to kind of dig through your collection, find something you haven't used in ages, and really just have a play with it. You could also turn to YouTube and look at tutorials for maybe a specific palette or a specific product, and kind of just find enjoyment in what you already have. It kind of takes the attention away from something new, and you might find that you have things in your collection that have been unloved for ages that you find become a firm favorite. So another thing I found really, really helpful was to just simply sleep on it. So if I found something I really, really wanted, be it in a store or online, I told myself that I had to kind of go to bed, put it out of my mind. If I still really, really, really wanted it the following day, then I would maybe think about it. But 9 times out of 10, when I got up the following day, I just wasn't bothered about it. A few of you have told me similar things, that quite often if you're shopping online, you leave it in the basket, kind of go to bed, forget about it, and by the following day, you're not even bothered about it and you don't go back and make that purchase. Quite often it's that impulse spending that kind of gets us into the most trouble. So another really simple tip is to simply distract yourself. So when you see that new palette that your favorite beauty guru is raving about and you really trust their opinion and you really tell yourself that you think that you would definitely use this and you want it, and just go and do something else. Go and watch Netflix, take a bath, go and read, go to the gym, anything that's going to take your mind away from that product in the moment. Because this is something I actually do a lot of the time when I'm trying to distract myself from eating the chocolate biscuits in the cupboard. I will just take myself off for a bath, and by the time I've done that, got out, relaxed, taken my mind somewhere else, that kind of desire has passed, that knot in my stomach that's like, oh, but I want it, has just disappeared. And you can just move past it. Simply distracting yourself sounds so simple, but is definitely effective. Another thing that can be really, really helpful is to change your internal dialogue. Now, most of us are having little conversations with ourselves in our heads most of the time. Now, when we are in the midst of buying something, even though we know we shouldn't, quite often the things that we are saying to ourselves is, well, it's only £10, or, well, I've had a really bad week this week. I deserve to have something else. And although I've got a similar palette, I don't have quite that shade. If you can change your internal dialogue from that to, do I really need this? I mean, we already know you don't need it, but ask yourself the question, do I need this? Do I have something similar? Do I want to save money for something else? All of these things, kind of changing the way in which you speak to yourself, will really help you stop buying those things that you don't need. Leading really nicely on from that, and kind of reiterating one of the comments I made about the last tip, is to ask yourself, do I have something similar? The likelihood is, if you have been shopping for quite a while, and certainly if you've been buying way too much, is that one thing that you really, really want, you probably have similar shades or something similar already in your collection. If you can go through what you have and ask yourself that question, purposefully looking for similarities rather than looking for differences, you often will find that you do have something similar. You don't need that new thing, and you can kind of just allow that one to pass you by and use what you already have. So this is something I've actually already mentioned in previous videos, and that is, what is this item actually costing you? So first of all, if you are using credit cards to buy makeup and you're not paying off the full amount at the end of each month, then potentially that item that seems relatively affordable at say £20 suddenly can become a lot more expensive. So if you're doing that, just stop. Honestly, no makeup is worth it. Secondly, I kind of like to think of what it's costing me in something else. So is this £20 item costing me a night out or a meal out with my friends? Because, you know, maybe I set myself a budget of how much I can spend each month on certain things. So, you know, is it worth not spending time with loved ones? Is that £20, £30 I spend this week going to mean that I need to struggle to save for a holiday later in the year? You know, all of these things, if it's costing you in something else, then it might just help you kind of step away from purchasing that thing, especially when you've already got so many other things already in your collection. Another tip that can be really helpful, especially if you are struggling to kind of stop spending, and if, like me, you really enjoy a good deal, is to unsubscribe from email newsletters, even if it's just for the short term. I found that I was often not even thinking about shopping or buying makeup, and then an email would pop up in my inbox, you know, 20% off today or limited time only, you know, whatever it might be. And I would then be drawn into buying something, and whilst you were on the website, you ended up looking at other things, and before you knew it, you'd got a basket full of, you know, £100 worth of stuff. So if you do struggle with that, just unsubscribe from them. You could always resubscribe at a later date, but, you know, unsubscribing from them really is helpful. In a similar theme to my last point, if you are an Instagram user and get tempted whilst you're on there a lot of the time, unfollow certain accounts, things like makeup brands and retail outlets that post a lot about makeup, especially new releases or the must-have makeup. Just unfollow them. Again, it doesn't have to be forever. It can just be a short-term thing. But when it's not coming up in your feed all the time, then you're not kind of tempted as much because you just don't know that it's there. You're not seeing it. You're not being reminded about new makeup all of the time, and I certainly found that helpful for me. Staying on a similar theme, and I almost don't want to say this, but if you are struggling, stay away from certain YouTube videos, or maybe you watch certain YouTubers who review all of the latest stuff. If that kind of tempts you, just don't watch them for a little while. If you're not hearing about the new releases all of the time, then you're far less tempted to buy them. And you know, you can also, if you still enjoy YouTube and you don't want to stop watching YouTube for a while, you could also go and watch kind of panning videos or watch videos from other people who talk about not buying makeup to kind of help you stay on track. You don't have to stay away from YouTube completely, but if those videos are the ones that make you want to shop, just kind of curb watching them just for a little while. Another thing I found really, really helpful, and I still do this to this day, is to wait for the hype to pass. With new releases, there's often so much hype around them, you know, and everyone's saying that they're the latest must-have thing and it's going to be life-changing, you need this in your life. And to be honest, then a few months down the line, you never see them use them ever again. If you can wait for the hype to die down, watch whether people are still using that item. Also, it gives you an opportunity to wait for reviews to come in, subculture anyone, and that can then help you make more informed purchases if you still want that thing when the hype has kind of died down a bit, when you've seen reviews, when you can make a much more educated kind of decision. If you still want it, then fair enough, you know, it's your money. But I definitely found that by waiting that little bit of time, then you realize that trends are just trends and they pass just like anything else, and quite often people have moved on to something else, and you don't need to buy that massively hyped eyeshadow palette from a few months ago. Another very simple but incredibly effective tip is to simply stay out of makeup stores. I found that I was nipping into some of these stores a lot out of habit, or, you know, just sheer boredom, just nip in and have a look what's there. Whereas now, if I don't need anything, I don't go. And I've just found that that's so helpful, because when we do pop in there, we see that there's an offer on that tempts us, or there's something new that you've not seen before and you end up swatching it and you're like, oh, maybe I could just pick this up. If you're not there, you're just not tempted by it. And this is something that I do even now. I tend to buy a lot from department stores now, but if I don't need anything, I think, why am I going? If I don't need something, what am I going shopping for? Because the likelihood is I will buy something. If I stay out of the store, I'm not going to buy anything because I can't. And it is so simple, yet so incredibly effective. Just stay away. Lastly, one little thing that can be helpful is to, if you've decided on something that you really, really want, but you don't want to spend any money on makeup, you could always ask friends or family for it as a gift. If you're in a family where you do gifting at Christmas and birthdays, that way you still get to enjoy that thing that you really, really want, but you're not spending. And I think most people, when they're buying a gift, would much rather you have something that you're going to love and enjoy, rather than kind of buy something that's just going to end up in the back of the cupboard. So that can be a good way to still enjoy something you really want without spending money. Also, you get to look forward to it. If you have had that conversation with your loved ones and they've said, absolutely, I will get you that, you kind of get the anticipation of knowing that it's coming, but without spending any money. Okay, so that is it from me today, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. Maybe you picked up a tip or two. As always, feel free to add your tips and tricks that's helped you in the comments. Maybe it will help somebody else as well. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and I will look forward to seeing you in my next one. Bye now. Mwah.